want to introduce you to two kind of tricks that I haven't gone over yet. And the first one is, I know I mentioned that we can frame up a particular object by hitting the F key, meaning that we bring it to the center of our viewport, but we can also do this just generally with the origin. If I'm kind of off far away in space, I can hit F without having anything selected and be brought back to the center of the scene. The other thing I want to mention is that sometimes if your scratch disks are full or you don't have a lot of space or room on your computer, your undo cue might be turned off. And so to fix this, we're going to go to Windows, Settings, Preferences, Undo, and just make sure that this is set to on and infinite. You might want to check this now to just be certain that it's not on finite, because you want to be able to go back endlessly to make changes to the work that you've done if something's not working, or you want to just make different edits or go in a different direction. So just make sure that that's on. I'm going to hit save. There's one more way for generating a surface from curves, and that's using the Extrude tool. To use the Extrude tool, we need two curves. We need one that's kind of the rail curve, and then we need a second curve. I'm going to generate this in my orthographic view. And so now to generate, I have my two curves that I've just created. And I can first select my profile curve and then select my kind of rail curve again and go up to surfaces and hit extrude. There's some options here. I'm going to go ahead and hit extrude here. And so what I've done is generated a form. And it's not necessarily following. So those options here are also here in this attribute editor. I can say I want it along a fixed path, and it will generate the form like this. Or I can say I want it to be, or not fixed path, use profile, normal, or not. These are all just different options that you have to generate your form. Some of these settings try to interpret this form without having a lot of overlapping geometry. But we have tube, we have flat. There's different ways of generating a surface, a NURBs surface from that extrude function. And so there's some options here to play with. Again, for this project, I really want you to just experiment with the different capabilities that Maya has in order to create your abstract compositions. I think being kind of open to experimentation is a good way to begin our semester in this first project. So play around with what the different attributes are for different tools that we've been introduced to so far. Okay, so if I want to, I can. I'm able to, maybe I'll delete these objects here and create a new one. Let me go ahead and just, again, maybe create a lofted surface. And I'm going to do that by generating two EP curves, flat EP curves, and then adding some dimensional interest to them by selecting them and going to curves, curl, to kind of curl them a little bit, and then surface and loft. And then I'm going to go to surfaces and reverse direction. Okay, so I have a surface to kind of work with here that I want to make some edits to. So if I right click, I have things called control vertex here. And so these give me edit points to manipulate or edit this surface. Surface points don't necessarily have any information or data, and surface patches just deal with the individual patches here. None of that's really as important as just working with surface or the control vertex, or isoparms, another one. And isoparms are kind of these lines that are generating the form, or the isoparms are really giving you an indication of curves, interpreting curves along or specifying curves that are along the surface. So one thing I can do is kind of just by dragging, working with isoparms and dragging and dropping, I can add a little bit more dimensionality here, or a little bit more resolution to the surface by surfaces and say insert isoparms. So by kind of dragging from the edge, working with isoparms, I can drag from the edge. I can shift and drag some in and surfaces and insert isoparms. And now I have more control vertex points to work with when manipulating my surface. So now with these control vertex points, I'm able to change the look of this surface. I'm kind of marquee selecting these surface points. Another thing that I can do is paint my selection. And then again, I'm hitting W to move, and then moving these points. Okay, so let me turn off the grid so we can really see this form. And this is getting some kind of nice fluid. This is becoming a kind of complicated shape. So another thing I can do is, let me go ahead and select this curve here, and I can go to surfaces and bevel. And you'll see here on the side of this menu, there's these there are these icons. On the opposite side of the options square are these icons here. So those icons are some of the icons that also appear on the shelf. So something like bevel appears on the shelf. So if I select that curve, I can, let's see, let me select this curve and say bevel. And what I've done is created a beveled edge to that curve. And I can, again, here, there's some options for adjusting the attributes of this curve. And I can change its depth, maybe not its width, but maybe its depth. And yeah, the width that this bevel comes out, maybe circular, linear, straight cut, curve in and out. So this gives me the option. And then again, the direction of this, I'm always going to want to, or maybe not, but I would recommend that we reverse the direction right away so you can really see where the surface is going to look like. So I have these two, I don't need a bevel polygon. I have these two lofted surfaces here. One is the beveled surface and one's the lofted surface. And if I can generate, I can attach these and make them one surface if I like by going to surfaces and attach. Oh, I just need to make sure that I'm selecting both surfaces. And now I have a third surface that's been created. And let me pull that away so we can see it. And this is now both of those, the lofted surface and the beveled surface are now connected as one curved surface. I'm still in this control vertex mode. Maybe I'll go back to my object mode. Okay, so now I have my nice curved surface that's containing both. If I go to my bevel and adjust, if I adjust any part of, what's really nice is that there's this artifacting that, or not artifacting, but there's this these two things have a relationship where as I'm editing, I can make edits to the curves. I can make edits to the surfaces. So any surface that's generated from curves or from other surfaces will maintain a relationship that as you edit one, you will be editing the other. And there's a way to break that connection as well, but for now we'll kind of just keep it and work with it. Another way to edit surfaces, if I select an isoparm here, like let's say I'm going to select this isoparm, I can, rather than attach, I can go to surfaces and say detach. And so now I've broken that surface into two. And I have two surfaces now I'm working with. So I'm also able to reattach these. If I go to surfaces and attach, I will create another surface that attaches those two. And again, reverse direction. So let's say I only want this form, I'm done editing, I don't want these other forms, I can just select them here and delete them. Right? And now I just have my final form that I've generated. Another thing that I'm able to do is I can cut a hole, and I think this might be the last edit tool that I want to introduce you to for surfaces is to cut a hole through the surface. And so the way to do that would be to draw a curve on the surface first by, I want to make this surface live, and then I want to draw a curve on it. I want to make sure that I have closed this curve. And now I can choose this whole surface and do something, an operation called trim. And what I'm going to want to do is select the area that I want to trim. So if I want to trim everything on this surface, if I want to keep this centerpiece, I would click it if I want to keep. I just choose which part of the surface I want to keep and which I want to delete. But I want to delete the whole, so I'm going to click this part to keep and then hit return. And now it's removed that part of the of my surface and kind of cut a little hole through it.